Hello, good afternoon. I'm David Hitt, your divorce Los Angeles realtor, and here today we're with collaboration law specialist Ty Supancic. Welcome, Ty.
Thank you, David. How are you?
I'm good, good. How about yourself?
Great, thank you.
Or I should say aloha.
I dress like this every day, not just on Fridays, to distinguish myself from lawyers that put on suits and go to war. Collaborative law is not about that, and so it's part of my branding.
Perfect. That's lovely. I love that about you. So, as I mentioned to you, the reason we'll do a series of videos about collaborative divorce because there's just so much material to go over that's useful. But today we'll keep this first one to 15 minutes or so. And so when someone is contemplating a divorce, why should they consider collaborative divorce versus getting an attorney and going to court?
Like any journey, the most important choice you make at the beginning of that journey is what path are you going to take? Are you going to drive? Are you going to hitchhike? Are you going to fly first class? That's critically important. So choosing the process you're going to use once you know you're going to have a divorce is critically important. And because that process is going to determine the outcome, the cost, the impact on your relationship going forward. It's going to have a profound, permanent effect on the rest of your lives. And if there are kids involved, it's even more important because you're going to be forever in a relationship with this co-parent.
Yeah, and I think also too with the courts being closed because of COVID-19, and that seems to me to make more sense to want to consider another option such as doing a collaborative divorce, especially if there are children involved today.
Yes, the collaborative divorce keeps the parties out of court.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So as you know, I took the 2-day basic collaborative law training, but I still, found it. I fell in love with collaborative divorce and am all for it. So can we talk a little bit about the values and the principles of collaborative law for a moment?
Sure. Collaborative law is about self-determination. It's about choosing your outcome, at the same time having the protection afforded individuals during the legal process. If people sit down together at their kitchen table and do the divorce themselves, they don't know what rights they're giving up. They don't know what sacrifices they're making necessarily. They don't know how they're being disadvantaged. When they mediate, if they're mediating with a lawyer, the lawyer can tell them generally about the way the law works, but they can't give individual advice. They can't advocate. And sometimes in a relationship, you really need an advocate. You really need someone looking out for you. So lawyers, that's what lawyers do. They look out for you, but they're also always preparing for court. They're always preparing for trial. So the wheels are always spinning behind the scenes. People might not talk to their lawyer for a month, and then they get a bill for $10,000. And they go, well, what's been going on? Well, the lawyer was getting ready for trial, even though the client wasn't involved. So the collaborative law model gives the couple lawyers who are their zealous advocates, who are looking out for them. But those lawyers are not empowered or authorized to go to court. So they don't have to prepare for court. So it saves the couple an enormous amount of money in the process. So they have the benefit of having a lawyer, but they don't have the downfall of paying that lawyer to get ready to go to war. So it's an enormous cost-saving measure.
Yeah, and some of the values and principles I have here are respect and dignity for the other party and other professionals, direct and open communication, voluntary and full disclosure, commitment to the healing of the family, and use of interest-based negotiations. What do you think about those items?
Those are absolutely all part of it. And for people who don't know the difference between interest-based negotiations, you know, I want what's fair. Well, that's not what your interest is. What your interest is I want to be taken care of. I want a roof over my head. I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to retire one day. That's not what's necessarily fair. And the judge can't give you necessarily what's fair. So in interest-based negotiations, couples are empowered to make agreements that a judge could never order. They could agree to keep the house until the kids grow up. You go to court and there's a dispute over what happens to the house, the judge orders it sold.
Right.
Everyone is made homeless. In the collaborative law model, you can say, well, being homeless wouldn't really be great for my kids. Being homeless wouldn't be great for me, certainly wouldn't be great for my co-parent. So let's come up with something more creative. Maybe there's a way we can stay in the home, or maybe there's a way we could do nesting. Nesting is where one party is in the house while the other party's someplace else, and then they switch places so that the kids are always in the house. Judge could never order that, but in collaborative law, you can do all sorts of creative things.
Yeah, it seems to me, and you get to be heard also too. That's what one thing that really I got me when I took the 2-day training was going to court. The lawyer, of course, is speaking for you and representing you. You don't necessarily get to speak your truth. Whereas in collaborative law, you can sit around the table and speak your truth and feel heard. So I think for a lot of people, and particularly, I would imagine going through a divorce, that would be something that they would love.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. And being heard, you're right, doesn't happen in court. I've seen people come out of court and say, what was that? I never got to talk. Well, that's how court works. You hired a lawyer to talk for you. And the lawyer is forbidden from talking about affairs or grievances or all of the things. Most of the things that cause a marriage to fail aren't relevant in a California court of law. Yeah. They are relevant in the collaborative law model. They are relevant when you can sit down with divorce coaches. One of the other distinctions of the collaborative law model is that besides the lawyers, you also have divorce coaches, you have a neutral financial person, you have a neutral real estate person. If you need a neutral parenting plan coordinator, you can bring them in. And so those grievances, those things that really wound us to our soul and cause us to leave the marriage, those get addressed in collaborative law. So it's a transformative process.
Yes, I believe it is. And the cost, now correct me if I'm wrong, and it varies from situation to situation, I would imagine, because they're all different as are real estate deals. But my understanding is a typical collaborative law case could run perhaps somewhere between 30 to 40,000. And a traditional court case, going to court for divorce, could be up to 120 grand. Is that?
Our recently retired supervising judge, Thomas Trent Lewis, said that with the current situation with our evidence code, 1-day trial is $100,000 on both sides of the dispute. So if you have a 3-day trial, that's $600,000.
Right.
It's enormously expensive. Collaborative law is almost always going to be less. I mean, way less than that. I shouldn't say almost always. It's always going to be less than that. Because even if you took all the time in the world, you're still not preparing for trial. You're still not taking depositions. You're still not issuing subpoenas. You're still not engaging in all the formal discovery tools that accompany traditional litigation. So it's a huge cost saving.
Wow, and that's a big relief, I would imagine, to anybody contemplating a divorce, for certain. So, the next point you mentioned, the collaborative team consists of course, a collaborative lawyer, financial. Two. Oh, okay.
Each party gets a collaborative lawyer. Yeah.
Okay, and then the financial neutral.
Yep.
And then divorce coach.
Generally two. It works better with two.
Okay. And
there
they
are cases
be...
where they'll have one divorce coach to handle the mental health issues. But when handling mental health issues, there's a thing that happens called alignment. And so it generally works better to have a mental health coach aligned with each spouse.
Okay.
So generally you would use two.
Okay. And then it also says a child specialist.
If appropriate, yeah.
If appropriate. Okay. And of course,
oftentimes the coaches are able to work it out without a child specialist.
Okay. Because the divorce coaches, I believe, are licensed therapists or psychiatrists or psychologists.
Yeah, they're licensed mental health professionals. Yeah.
Licensed mental health professionals, pardon me.
Yeah.
And then if there is real property involved, there'll be a collaborative realtor like myself or anyone else who's familiar with the process.
Yes.
Okay. And now my understanding also too is, who is the one that coordinates or is the moderator, if you will, of the whole meeting? The one of the divorce coaches or one of the therapists I can't remember the term that they call it's not
your training was in Florida, and every state does it a little bit differently.
That's right. I'm sorry. So
that's okay. That's okay. Every state does it a little bit differently. In the collaborative law cases I've participated in, sometimes it's just a chemistry thing. Sometimes you get in a room of people and everybody looks towards this one person and they go, take it away. And we know that's who's going to. Now, it's not going to be one of the two lawyers because that would be unequal. But it might be, if you were using one coach, it might be the one divorce coach. If you're using a financial, it might be the financial. There isn't any reason it couldn't be the real estate professional, except that you probably wouldn't be there in every meeting because not every meeting is going to address the real estate issues.
Yeah, it seems to me the divorce coach would be a really good opener and more inviting.
They usually are.
To dig deeper.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that should we go into the difference of where the team, or should we do that on another two videos? What do you think? Then we got to go into what each professional does in detail. Maybe we'll stop here if that's okay with you.
Sure.
And then we'll do another one or two videos. Are there any last thoughts that you want to add that someone should know about this process?
Yeah, if someone is watching this video and they haven't decided what process they're going to use, that's really the game changer. You need to pick the right process for your family and for your circumstances. And the more you can educate yourself and your spouse about the different choices you have, the happier you're going to be with the outcome. You don't want to do anything because you didn't know any better. And a lot of people just stumble into litigation because that's what they show on TV. Why? Because it's dramatic, because it's horrifying. And you don't want to do something just because you didn't know you had a choice.
Well, and that's so helpful, and Ty, and thank you so much for taking the time today. And I love that we're a part of Divorce Transition Professionals together, which makes divorce a little bit easier. So I love that we all have that mindset and work from that vantage point. And I love and appreciate you for this. And let's come back to do number 2 video. Talk to you later.
David. Likewise.
Thank you.